All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Cape Cod Technology Council's coffee Q&A on the third Friday of every month. Welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to have Heather Doyle here from Cape Cod Ocean Community. Just a couple of housekeeping things ahead of time. Please, introduce yourself in the chat. Say who you are, where you're from. Throw in your LinkedIn profile if you'd like to. And just to give you a heads up for things that are coming up from the Tech Council, next month in honor of Earth Day is going to be Earth Tech Month at the Tech Council. So we've got 5 events on every Friday of the month next month, starting off with Vineyard Wind for our first Friday at 8 a.m. on April 2nd. Then we're going to have coffee Q&As on electric cars, on electric planes from Cape Air, an interview with Greentown Labs about green innovation, and agri-solar, putting solar panels on farms. So lots of cool stuff about sustainable energy next month. I want you to be up for that. We also want to say a big thanks to Dale Shabigian at Cape and Plymouth Business Media. They really help us get the word out for these events. And Dale also often has a marketing tip for us that he shares every time we do these. So Dale, do you have something to share with us today?
I do. Thank you, Bert. Today is not an exciting tip, but I feel it's really important. Something that I'm seeing consistently is I read an article recently that, these percentages get thrown around. I don't know if it's exact, but a very high percentage of people still want to see COVID-19 guidelines prominently displayed for a business. It's in the high 60s. Folks want to know what's different. They want to know if you're open. Where do they park? Where do they go? How have things changed? So some recommendations in your marketing is make a list of all the platforms that you're on that will allow you to make an update, such as your Google business listing, Facebook, your website, your front door, and of course, your email signature is a great place to let people know you're still doing business. I know we're kind of heading out of this, but it's still really top of mind for a lot of folks. So just keep that in mind, and having the list ready will help you have a process to updating it and then hopefully someday going away. That's my tip.
Dale, thank you so much for that. I'd now like to introduce Robin Orbison from Cape Space, who is going to be our moderator for today and will introduce our guest. Robin?
All right, thank you, Bert, and good morning, everyone. I think that it's really exciting to be talking about sharks today. A couple of years ago, we thought sharks were our biggest problem, and now sharks sharks are fun. Talking about sharks reminds us of the old days. And we're really lucky to have Heather Doyle here with us today, who is one of the founders of Cape Cod Ocean Community, which is an organization that seeks to find harmony between the ocean creatures and the land creatures. Good morning, Heather.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me.
Wonderful to have you. Heather, why don't we start out by just tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your background, how you became interested in this topic, and how you came to found Cape Cod Ocean Community.
So I work in tech. I started working at the phone company, and then, of course, like everybody, you evolve to DSL, and DSL evolves to data, which evolves to AI. So I'm very comfortable with the notion that technology evolves. And I also know that demand drives innovation. So the idea that there's lots of technologies, past, present, future, around shark surveillance, detection, and surveillance was very comfortable for me. I have a Wellfleet background. Hyper aware and hyper concerned about the shark issue on the Outer Cape. I did feel like there were some peas and carrots on the ground that people like me, all volunteers, could pick up and run with. In the year after Arthur Medici died, which touched us greatly, Arthur was the same age as our children, my friends and family's children. We were all on the beach all day, every year prior. And on that same day, we couldn't imagine that we didn't know who it was that had lost their life that day, and went on to become very close to Arthur's family. And we knew that that was actually the third attack in 14 months. So there's sort of a notion that says, oh, it's 1 in 53 years. And certainly that's true. But in our lens, it was 3 in 14 months. We felt an acceleration. Cleve Bigelow had been bit at Marconi. Dr. Litton had been bit just before Arthur Medici, and then Arthur Medici passed. So with a friend, we started banging the drum and spent a lot of time at our own dining rooms and picnic tables saying the following: somebody should do something, right? Somebody should do something. So in the springtime, we launched a Clever Buoy fundraiser, which I'm sure everybody on this call knows about. If you don't, I'm happy to talk about it offline. But we had hoped to put a sonar buoy out in the waters on the Outer Cape for a test it out. We raised $40,000. We didn't have any takers. There was tremendous trepidation all along the Outer Cape and the seashore at that time around doing anything. Liability was a big concern. Technologies that might not work was a big concern. I mean, we really had just been hit with a baseball bat, and I get that. We all got that. So we took our $40,000 and we gave it all back, really with the utmost of care, because in the event we did not follow through on our exact plan, we really didn't want to be chasing people and trying to return their $5 and be accused of fraud. But at the same time that happened, Robin, our phones lit up. And by we, I mean Ashley Penn and myself and people in our community. And they said, man, do not give up. This is important. Even people that are public officials, they're saying, listen, we have a lot of things to worry about. We got to worry about garbage. This was before COVID. We've got to worry about beaches. We got to worry about roads. We got to worry about flu shots and mosquitoes. Please stay on this, and please be a place where people can galvanize and be a source of information. We're all volunteers. We don't sell anything, and we make it our business just to bring technologies that are out in the universe closer to the Outer Cape, closer to the Cape, and just try to fill that gap. So I think I over answered your question, but
no, that was a perfect answer. So from there, I would like to start by talking about one of your early successes, which is the Eye in the Sky program. When I learned about this, I thought, wow, this is so obvious. It's just taking resources that already exist and making them work for an important cause. Can you explain how that program works and how you managed to pull it together?
Oof, yeah. So this is classic grassroots. And I'll say throughout today, every single thing that's happened, every single thing we brought forward came from a person or a team of people or an idea. And I'll always ask you guys at the end of this, join us, bring your ideas. What can you bring? So we held, after the Clever Buoy, we held 2 information sessions, one at the Cape Cod Lighthouse School, the charter school, and one at Hog Island Brewery. And we brought in all the manufacturers, all the technologists, the scientists that we could reach, brought them globally, including from Australia, to the Outer Cape, merely to talk about all the technologies: shark bands, shark shield, the stripes, people that had alarms, stop the bleed kits, just kind of taking all of this atmosphere and bringing it into one location so that a family, a mom, a dad, a teacher, a sister can come learn all in one place without having to sit at Nauset Sport for 45 minutes and debate the usefulness of Ocean Guardian or not. So we kind of became the demand generation. But what was beautiful about that is it drew a lot of people. We were, to be honest, those who have done startup, you never know if you're going to go home by yourself that night. We were flooded with people at Hog Island especially. And in that audience, some folks came to me and said, hey, we're pilots out of Chatham. Ian Day was the primary person at the time. They said, hey, we've been trying to hook up with some organization, some town, harbor masters. We see sharks near recreational areas. We don't know what to do. We don't know who to tell. And I said, I don't know either. I don't know what to tell you. So we met offline, and Ian explained that really by, it is possible to do this. It's not so big as it seems. And we're all volunteers. We all have full-time jobs. So I said, you better noodle this down. This is going to be in small chunks. So Ian went to the FAA and tamed a channel for us. And then there were 2 parts, right? So Ian took it out to the airplane pilots locally at first and said, hey, if you see anything out in the water near a recreational area, shout down on this number. And our role was to purchase, which we did through many thousands of dollars of donations, airband radios. And at the time, because we're innovating. We kept it very quiet. We kept it with volunteers. In fact, one of the people who are volunteers I see on the call right now, Patsy Francisco. This worked phenomenally. It is an imperfect system. There's not always a plane. The plane may not always identify the shark properly. It is truly a grassroots effort, but it moved from 0 to 100, from unknown to known. And what happened was, after a little bit of press, this caught fire and it became the Eyes in the Skies program. Some folks from the Massachusetts Municipal Airport Society called us. They picked up more peas and carrots from us. They took it out to all the airports, including out to Nantucket. So this became very wide. We then had a call from the Coast Guard, the State Police, the National Guard, Civil Air Patrol, the sign draggers. So this thing took fire. In fact, I was just informed last week that some of these folks at the municipal level are taking it to Long Island and along the East Coast, because again, as we're saying, it's such a no-brainer. So that's how that all came to be. It's not something that really blew the doors off, but it is something that merely said you can go from doing nothing to doing something in a very small innovation. There are lifeguards now who have those radios. It's another tool in their tool belt. I'm often asked, well, how do you know how many times things have really happened? We know beaches have been cleared as a result of that program. This year, the pilots asked if we would provide an app for them, which we did, where they could not only call in to what they saw to someone on the beaches, but log that into an app. So we have some actual empirical data as to what's happening, what we're seeing, and that can help inform all the researchers, right? Greg's often said, I'm not in the water every day, so he's happy for any information. So again, this cost so little money. It's now spreading. It's something we hold a lot of pride about, but I'm not disillusioned. It's not a perfect system.
I just absolutely love that story. I mean, the idea that you took something that was there already. So you had, at any given time, there are lots of planes in the air over the beaches. They're seeing the sharks. They want to warn somebody,
Yeah.
but there was no place for them to do that. So for a small investment in some communication systems, you're able to get that information to lifeguards and actually save lives. So fantastic. Kudos on that program. So I understand that another one of the missions of your organization is to work with the towns and to help the towns assess technologies and reduce the risk of shark injuries in their towns. So we're going to talk about some of the technologies in a minute, but first, can you just talk a little bit about the interaction with the town? How have you built those relationships? How are you covering all the towns on the Cape? Or are there some towns that are not early adopters? How's that working?
Yeah, so thanks for the thought we were going with the softballs first, Robin.
Sorry, Heather.
So here's what's beautiful about Cape Cod Ocean Community. It's not just me. There's probably more than 1,000 of us, and at this point, there's probably 20 or 30 that can articulate any of the programs at any one time, which has to happen because we all have day jobs. So it's easy for us to get a meeting with the town. I'm not selling anything. I'm thinking about sharks all the time. Post-COVID, during COVID, there's a lot of things on these folks' plates, right? So we get that. And we feel like we have a niche, like we have a little spot. I learned the word galvanized from Bert Jackson. People can galvanize around us. It's safe, right? And come and learn. So what we can do for the towns, and we continue to do, is just be a source of information. We're looking across the globe. We have people reaching out to us on a regular basis. In fact, this summer we'll bring 2 technologies for personal deterrence to the Cape that were previously not known. And we can talk about that in a minute. So we've got our ears to the ground. Think of it that way. So if you're a town and you're thinking about, I know the shark issues out there, I can't make it my mission to read through miles and miles of research papers and results papers and interview people using technology. Maybe I can reach out to these CCOC people and they can do that. So for example, what can we do this summer? I do know of 2 towns that have reached out to us. They'd like to break the ice on a drone program. What does that mean? Like, how do I become a drone expert? How do I run a drone program? I have no budget. I can't hire somebody. I can't find a bunch of pilots. So what CCOC will do at this time, this is how we believe this will evolve, and things change on a regular basis, believe me. But we've created a playbook. So we've acquired a device which is super mature from donations. It was $6,000. Has every fancy thing, crystal screen. It has a zoom so that instead of losing the time to drop the drone, you could zoom and see very quickly. And the playbook merely says, here's what you buy, here's how it works, here's how you keep it and store it and launch it, here's how you record, and here's a bunch of mentors. We have 7 licensed pilots out on the Outer Cape, actually some from Yarmouth as well, who are willing to help mentor. So we'll just break the ice that way. I don't think it's anything we'd ever say, hallelujah, we've solved it and the beaches are safe. We don't live in that world. But drone is a very mature technology. It has been used by the government for generations. There's no reason not to have it out there. There's also a balloon solution, which we love. The balloon is based out of Bourne, Massachusetts. Yep, right down the road, Bourne, Massachusetts. Another very mature technology. It's called altimetry. All this is on our website, which I'm happy to share. And those things will also help break some of the ice. Here's what you can do. Here's what it looks like. So we just try to be the enabler, right? Demand drives innovation. If we don't ask, we won't know. So we just try to help any of the towns or the seashore, who are the lagging agency, to go from the unknown to the known. And we believe those things will take fire and help us have technology to make our waters a little safer, and certainly let us know how to coexist.
That is, Ms. Christie, you're almost like a broker for shark technology.
But with no money, just
But with
volunteers.
a free broker.
Yeah.
That's not an
idea,
oxymoron. Okay, so good segue, Heather. I understand that you have a video that shows how the drones work. So I think this would be a good time to tee up that video for everyone watching. This is a approximately 7-minute video. And for the first, I'm going to say 3 minutes, you're going to think it's a little dry, but don't worry, when the shark footage comes, it's pretty fascinating. So do you want to go ahead and tee that up, Heather?
Yeah, so I will. So just know more, this is not my video. We've partnered with many research firms in the area, one of whom is Moosh Systems. We are a financial supporter to Moosh Systems. This is a video from work that they did last summer. And I think you'll enjoy it. As Robin says, it does start to go into a stratosphere that even I want to, glaze my eyes over. But stick with us. Hold on. I rehearsed this all morning, so it should come right out.
We are excited to present details of our current study of nearshore great white shark behavior off the coast of Cape Cod. The exploding seal population has resulted in the presence of a large population of great whites. These sharks travel and feed in the same waters where people have been swimming and surfing for generations. We wanted to gain an understanding of nearshore great white behavior and enable this knowledge to be used in the development and deployment of shark mitigation and detection technologies. There's never been a published study looking at nearshore great white behavior off of Cape Cod. This information is critical if we are to enhance ocean safety. We utilize drones in this study, primarily because they are highly accessible and also work well in the local environment, where waters are relatively shallow, enhancing contrast as well as limiting shark swimming depths. These systems are highly advanced and when used correctly represent a powerful scientific tool. The majority of flights were conducted from town and private beaches in Truro, Wellfleet, and Orleans. It is important to understand that permits from the Cape Cod National Seashore are not required unless flying from actual park property. The park has done their best to convince people otherwise, and in doing so have likely stymied research in this region, but it is simply not true. The park has no such authority. Data collection methods were relatively simple. Data was collected by flying up and down the coast until sharks were spotted, and then following them for as long as we could. Somewhere in the vicinity of 50 hours of great white video was obtained over the course of a single summer. While most flights were conducted from the beach, we also utilized boats for some of this work. How do you then transform all this video footage of sharks into useful and quantifiable information on behavior? Well, a number of animal tracking studies, including a recent shark study out of Australia, have simply flown the drone directly over the animal and used the drone GPS position as the animal position. We wanted to have greater flexibility. We wanted to be able to track multiple sharks at once, determine distances from shore and seals, as well as to quantify interactions with seals and other objects. We also wanted to obtain a varied data set for AI development. As such, we flew at all different altitudes and observed sharks from all different gimbal angles and directions. While this added tremendous versatility to our study, it also added considerable complexity. Flight data provides the information you need to convert image data into actual shark positions. You have the GPS of the drone, as well as the heading, gimbal angle, altitude, and lens angle. You need to go from video footage of sharks to actual shark position on the image sensor. This requires that all of your videos be annotated. Alignment of data streams is also critical. We have developed software to align data streams with a high level of accuracy. We have developed further software that essentially converts any position on the image sensor into coordinates in latitude and longitude. This then allows us to obtain all sorts of useful information and shark parameters. One of the things that we've created as a useful visual tool are these video maps. They enable us to check and visualize all of our data. On the left, you have the actual video of the shark, and on the right, you have the track of both the shark and the drone, as well as some of the drone parameters. Shark is a larger gray circle and the drone the smaller white circle. The current tide is also shown over the day's tide, as well as a scale bar. It is striking how clear the water can be at times and how easy it is to spot sharks in the right conditions. Here we have a shark approaching a swimmer at Head of the Meadow Beach in Truro. This is the first time I ever ran down the beach yelling shark. Fortunately, the woman was able to get out of the water in plenty of time. Here we have a seal approaching a shark before rapidly turning and swimming towards the beach. We have managed to capture a lot of similar interactions between sharks and seals, including several instances of sharks chasing after seals. Our software will enable us to better understand these interactions and quantify the distances and speeds involved. Actual hunting behavior is something we're really interested in, and we're working hard to learn more about this. While these videos are great to look at, it's the overall tracks of the sharks over extended periods of time that may contain the most valuable information. Here we switch to the full track of the shark. What we have found is that these sharks generally follow the shoreline for extended distances. This particular shark was tracked for over 25 minutes and was seen to mostly parallel the shore, traveling over a mile during this time. While not every track is exactly like this track is fairly typical. Here's another track where a shark is followed for 38 minutes and is seen to again parallel the shore, but this time reverse course at some point and head back towards the point from which it was originally spotted. While we did see some sharks head offshore and disappear into deeper water, this was not the norm, and so we suspect that transitions between deep offshore water and the shallow nearshore waters along this coast are infrequent in comparison to the length of time spent paralleling the shore. Here we see another interesting trajectory. This map represents 20 minutes of tracking of a shark circling just off Lacanhala Beach. The shark actually circled in this area for more than 2 hours. The lifeguards never saw it despite being shown exactly where it was. We are now in the process of analyzing all of this tracking data to quantify parameters related to behavior. We will obtain statistics on such parameters as distance from shore, direction of travel in relation to shoreline, and many others. We look forward to publishing the final results of this study shortly. What are the practical applications of this information? From the standpoint of shark detection, I think what we have found is very encouraging. If we consider the goal of protecting a swimming area using drones, we now have an idea as to how to go about doing this. We know that the overall trajectory of any shark coming towards the swimming area will most likely be paralleling the beach. We also know that these sharks will most likely already be in shallower nearshore waters, making them easier to see from the air. As such, we could envision placing drones on either side of the swimming area and flying them up and down the coast some distance. We know that these animals swim at relatively slow cruising speeds. If a shark is spotted 2,000 feet from the swimming area, people have approximately 9 minutes to clear the water. Even at the relatively short distance of 500 feet, you're still looking at more than 2 minutes. We know that a shark swimming straight into the swimming area from deeper water is a significantly less likely event. This is all knowledge that can be used to optimize any system for shark detection in this area. It is not limited to drones. I also wanted to briefly mention a couple other things that we're working on. Tailbeat frequency and swim speed for a given shark length are an indication of behavior. Is the shark swimming to get from point A to point B and thus minimizing the cost of transport? Or is the shark swimming slower and thus likely foraging? These are things that we would like to understand, and we are developing software to help answer these questions. We are excited to have been able to share preliminary results from what we believe, in terms of public safety, is the most important study of great whites ever conducted off of Cape Cod. We look forward to continuing to work towards the further development of drone-based systems for shark detection, and also towards a greater understanding of shark behavior, as this is a fundamental key to both optimizing any shark detection system as well as to understanding its limitations. We would also like to thank all the people who have helped support and encourage these efforts. We had lots of help with drone spotting from so many people. We had some top-notch flying and spotting from both my dad, Dave Sexton, and Mark McCormick. We cannot thank the Cape Cod Ocean Community enough for all their hard work and unwavering support. And of course, Catherine for inspiring all that we do, as well as narrating and editing some of our short films, not to mention doing a pretty good job flying the drone at times. We are very excited in regards to what we've been able to accomplish in just over a year, and this has been done by a small group of people, a handful of volunteers, and a budget of less than $10,000. A lot of work remains to complete and publish the results of this study, and much more with all the other things we plan to get done. But it does not hurt to have a nice office. With that, I would like to say thank you to everyone for taking the time to listen. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Also, please feel free to get in touch with us via email. We're always looking for collaborators interested in research and development related to the goal of increased safety for recreational water users. Thank you very much.
So back to you.
Okay, so fascinating. I'm just adjusting my volume. Fascinating look at how the sharks actually behave. And I particularly was interested in the estimates of how much time you have to get out of the water from the time that a drone is able to spot a shark. So it's a very valuable information that is being produced by these drones. So thank you for that. So I'd like to move on now and talk about a couple of the other sort of categories of technologies. And the next one really is about, I guess I have the term barrier technologies. And these are technologies that basically create some sort of a shield or a barrier between people and sharks. So tell us about those, Heather.
So I'll do my best. And again, this is a citizen science version of what these technologies are. And I'm happy to connect anybody who's super interested with those who are way smarter than me. So what I won't talk about is smart drum lines. There's tremendous press about smart drum lines. It's not something that I advocate or don't advocate, but our mission really is around deterrence using technology. So that brings us to things like barriers. Ocean Guardian is a firm that have for countless years provided some devices that go on boards for shark deterrence, kind of like a dog fence. They've provided this to divers for many years. There was a notion of which we participated in the past 2 years of taking some of these devices, kind of jerry-rigging them using weights and buoys to create a little bit of a safe zone, maybe for surf schools, et cetera. Again, better than nothing. You know, we don't have any categorical evidence it works on the Cape in that case. And they became aware of our efforts as well as others to kind of jerry-rig their technology. So they've done a couple things. They've created, again, the name of the company is Ocean Guardian. They're easy to find online. They've created a couple things that we love. One is a big true buoy, like as big as my arms. You might use it off of your boat, and it again will create a zone of which a shark who's kind of cruising would feel uncomfortable and turn away. They've evolved that technology even further to daisy chain those kinds of buoys into a set region, into a set parameter on a beach. They're testing it at a hotel in the Bahamas right now, as a matter of fact. And if you want to know more about it, I can let you know how their testing's going, and we can do some online stuff. And they are using drones to validate their results, by the way. But some of those things we think have a lot of merit here. We're not attaching to the ocean floor. We can bring it in the morning. We can bring it out at night. We can try it in a quiet place and use drones to validate it before we move forward. If these things exist and the price is very consumable, which it is, this is not $1 million effort. Let's move the needle, right? Remember the future. Where are we going with this shark stuff? So those are some of the things that we really love. Those are the barriers that we advocate the most for. There are certainly others. If you can imagine, I probably once a month have an email, with the 99 terabyte file of somebody creating an ocean and would like some help. That's not what we are. We're not people that are going to be in an R&D effort, but we do like to take innovations that are mature and bring them to an audience where there may be traction to do some testing. So that's what we think about barriers. And again, that was Ocean Guardian. And I'm happy to, as I said, talk offline further.
And where are those, where are you aware of those operating in the world right now?
So those have just come out of testing. And again, as I said, there's a terrific test going on in the Bahamas by a hotel. So essentially they've bought into the technology, to be honest. She has done a number of tests. So the buoy that you throw over the water, over the boat, that has tremendous maturity as well. And that is being used on Cape Cod. It is being sold locally. And there are folks that are using that off of their boats.
Okay, great. Okay, so the last category of technologies that I want to talk about is something that we've all become very aware of, the term PPE, personal protection equipment. And there are some technologies that are designed for individuals to use when they are in the water. So tell us about them.
Yeah, and again, I'm not the science behind the mission, but I'll just be a source of information. So there's two calls that I get. One is calls people saying, what about this shark bands thing? And I can share with them some of the research that is not as optimistic with respect to great white sharks as some of the other technologies. And again, we don't advocate for anything. I want people to make their own decisions. But if I can save a gentleman who's painting houses all day, hours and hours of online research, trying to help his kids be a little safer, that's what we like to do. So the other two that come into mind right away, again, back to Ocean Guardian, they do have devices that can be used by divers. So this will be a cord that will drag behind. Not very intrusive. You might get a pinch if it comes back at you. Again, there's all kinds of research. That's not my opinion. This is well advertised. And then also too, the most famous is the Ocean Guardian Shark Shield that some surfers and boogie boarders are putting on their boards. That's a pretty mature technology. They suffered tremendously during COVID with supply issues out of China, both with replacement parts, with adhesive parts, also with just products themselves. Although Amanda told me a couple days ago that they now have some stock finally. And again, demand drives innovation. They've changed some of their imaging. They've changed how the device looks on the board. So that's something to look forward to as well. There's great results with that. Again, nobody's saying this is a perfect world, but if the technology exists and it's consumable, let's try it, right? Better than nothing is our phrase. The other one that we became of more recently, and again, was previously not known on Cape Cod, a gentleman in Truro called me. He'd been traveling overseas and brought back a product called Rapella, RPELA. Rapella was just a private individual with a couple of innovators on his staff who was having a hard time breaking into Cape Cod. So we held some webinars, brought some people that care about this topic into the webinar. Some folks have actually now purchased a Rapella. I just had a status report last night, and they're installing those on their boards as well. There's plus and minuses. Some people like Rapella because it's inside the board. And as one gentleman told me, he goes, when I give my 10-year-old a device that has a shark shield on it and they throw the board on the beach, I want to rip my hair out. The Rapella is a little more tucked in the board and creates a different sort of a zone. So lots of new technologies. We expect Rapella to be shown up more and more this summer. And we do have some folks who are working on becoming installers and all that. So those are the things that we know the most about. Back to abalone divers who subscribe to the notion of stripes, anything that creates a contrast in what a shark may see. Those are things that are, again, widely adopted. You see stripes all over the beaches. I see people striping their paddle boards now in their paddles. Doesn't look like a sea snake. So again, just trying to use innovations and really a global community for what can be done and what the successes are. And again, if you have some duct tape, maybe put some black and white tape, and then there is some abalone diver evidence that this is impactful.
Okay, so we're gonna start opening this up for questions in a moment. So audience, please drop your questions into the chat. But before we do that, Heather, so I just, first of all, want to congratulate you on all the great work you're doing. What I love about your organization is that I like the name of it, the Ocean Community, really is about helping all of the members of the community coexist. So the sharks, the seals, and us, we can all exist in harmony without, chomping on each other or shooting each other or doing anything like that. So we just love that. But are there any other things that you would like people to know about white sharks on Cape Cod, and about how to behave safely when you are at the beach?
I would say follow the lifeguards guidance. They are the most educated. They have the most tools. Aside from these personal devices we spoke on, that's your best measure. In terms of sharks on Cape Cod, my citizen science view is they're certainly more than ever. No reason to believe there wouldn't be more than ever. There's a lot of evidence about a rookery off of Long Island, those young sharks coming here. There's lots of tagging efforts. I mean, our local researchers feel strongly that their human safety technologies are very reliant on tagging. So we say, what can we do to widen the lens of people doing tagging, which is great. I don't want to get too much into the biology part of it because that would be out of my realm of expertise. And there's plenty of people who are paid to do that, and that's what they're great at. So you can find those folks.
Okay, great. So we're gonna give people a few minutes to get their questions typed into the chat. While we're doing that, let me ask you: have you seen these board devices like Rapella or any of their competing products? Have you seen them in use on the Cape? I mean, can you stand on the beach and point them out?
Yeah. Certainly, if you're seeing people boogie boarding and surfing, you will certainly see people with this on their board. So the back of it sort of looks like a spear, right? You might see it look like the spear. The new version has, not so much a spear, but they kind of rounded out their edges so it's not so obvious. There'll be a battery pack on their kickboard, which will be blue. I see it more and more. I will tell you that something we consider is, again, we'd love to see a program in Massachusetts for shark safety. And part of that program in Massachusetts versus some of the scientists doing small projects might include, like we've done what was done overseas, where to offset the very expensive cost of things like an Ocean Guardian Shark Shield or a Rapella is provide some sort of a subsidy. So that would be something that we do advocate for. We've started to beat a drum in that direction. Super hard with COVID. I mean, we criticize people for being out of touch, but yet that required us to not be out of touch during COVID and not be banging on doors for subsidies for shark shields and subsidies for drone usage.
I understood.
We kind of not be out of touch as well, but
okay. All right. We've got some questions coming in from the audience now. All right. So first question, are there any projections for the shark to wander westward towards Falmouth and the beach a quarter of a mile from my house, where at least right now I frequently swim? So I guess the question is, do you see the sharks migrating and starting to show up in areas they're currently not showing up in?
Yep. So not my area of expertise. So my area is using technology for shark surveillance. What we do not do is study sharks per se, right? We're really looking at technology. So I would defer that to certainly the Department of Fisheries, any other researchers. And I certainly think there are some buoys that were in Falmouth, Scituate. There's all kinds of buoys that are pulled in the fall. We are pressing for the results of those buoy ping reports to be more well publicized. Today, it's a little bit difficult to get that information into the hands of the public. So to answer your question, I think there's probably an answer. And if you'd like to join with us, we can bang the drum to get those buoy reports more widely advertised.
Great. Okay, next question. Are there any local companies that are engaged in developing any of these technologies?
So the one, Altimetry, the balloon and born, you can check that online, altimetry.com. They're very close. They continue to innovate. The first version of that balloon was tested on the Cape before Arthur Medici died, or maybe just after. No, it was before. And it was not a good test. We did a test in October 2019, and it was excellent. And many of the same people had come, including the press. So that was a very good, innovation on their part. The day that we did the balloon demonstration was very windy. In fact, it was windy enough that we all came home with windburn. So that's my evidence, right? My citizen scientist evidence, but you know what I mean by that. And some folks said, I hope you're not going to be embarrassed that the balloon's going to blow all over. I said, listen, hallelujah. If it blows all over, we take it off the list, right? And then we can move on. That's the purpose of this exercise. That's the purpose of this organization. So the balloon went up. It was very, very steady. There's some pictures on our website. It was very easy to maneuver. The screen was fantastic. The balloon is persistent, which requires less babysitting than a drone, right? So drones are moving, you got to look, you got to tell somebody where to go. The balloon is persistent. We love the combination of that local balloon being persistent over a beach. When it sees something that's of interest, the staff deploy a drone, do a validation, and then take everything down. So that's kind of one of the kind of algorithms that we see might be effective here.
Okay. All right, so we've got a question here now. So that's enough for the softball questions, Heather. Here come the hard
Oh boy, bring it.
So somebody here is invoking Mayor Vaughn from Jaws and wondering about the difficulty of getting local governments to act with respect to sharks because out of fears of hurting their or I guess in the case of Jaws, it wasn't that the mayor was unwilling to act, it was that he was unwilling to admit that there was a problem because he was concerned about economics. So somebody is asking a question about how you feel about that and what you see and observe with respect to our local governments.
So I'll take a couple things. So I cannot validate, or this is not a source for people to say it's going to be okay, the odds are in your favor. And I can certainly subscribe to that, but that's not my calling. That's not the mission of CCOC. We're about people who say we don't want to stay out of the water. We want to continue to be in the water, right? So let me just say that out front. In terms of the governments, I think the lens from Falmouth, the lens from Yarmouth is a little bit different than the lens from Wellfleet or Nauset. If you rent a house, if you work your tail off 51 weeks a year, and you have 1 week that you've paid $3,000 to $4,000, and you pack your wife and your kids in your LL Bean bag, and you go down to the beach, and you're pulled out hour after hour, day after day, that word spreads. People understand what that means. Now you've got hot, cranky kids. I mean, if you have a choice, what might you do different? We know that the seashore numbers from 2017 prior to COVID were decreasing. This is on their website. It's on mine as well. In a good news, bad news, unintended consequence, the numbers were back up again in 2021. But were those people in the water? I can give you my own observations. So do I think there's a level of naivety, if that's the direct question? No, I don't. But I think the path from what to see, what to say, and what to do, and doing it is a very hard road. I'll say that.
Very diplomatically. Okay, next question. All right, so Henry is trying to extrapolate from the drone video some rules. So the question is, if I see a drone slowly moving over the waters off Falmouth, change direction, and then head towards me, would you recommend getting out of the water?
So I have no idea who those people are who are running drones. I do know that Yarmouth is running a drone program. You can talk to them for the specifics of it. But again, I'm not responsible at this time for people who are actually running drones for the purposes of shark safety. So I would listen to your listen to that little voice in your head. And if it's a sunfish, so be it. At least you had an opportunity to take action. So I can't tell you that much about Falmouth, but I do think those buoy reports would be super interesting to you.
I think it's probably also true that there are lots of people just flying drones for personal recreation that may have nothing to do with shark sightings.
Yeah, true story.
I'm not sure we can watch drones over the beach and have them follow their lead. Okay, I think we're gonna I think that's all the questions we had coming in. I think we're gonna move towards a wrap up, but we do have a question here. Somebody is asking if we can make links available to all the technologies that you've mentioned. Mm-hmm. So I think we can pull that together, right, Heather? Bert,
yeah, for sure. I see Mark's just popped up on the link as well. So
perfect.
Our page, we originally whipped off our page, no word of a lie, in 24 hours because we had to pivot from the GoFundMe site. And over time, we've become so robust that it's now a website that needs to be skinny down. So I'll apologize in advance. There's more information there than a person can consume, but there's quite a bit there.
Okay, great. All right. So Bert will give everyone instructions to how to download the chat if you want to do that before we get off. And we can also send out some follow-up information with all of those links and names of companies. All right. Well, Heather, is there anything you'd like to add before I send this back to Bert?
As I said, every single thing we've talked about came from a person. So don't feel as if you need to wait for someone else or your ideas aren't important, or how might we take something from a notion to a reality. We're happy to talk, and we're always talking to people that have ideas. We do have some resources in donations. We continue to build our donation base. We made a decision not to do grants last year as a result of COVID. I think we will reinvigorate that this year. So we always have resources to start moving the needle. That's our purpose.
Okay. And we'll make sure that we put your contact information in that follow-up information that we'll be sending out.
Great.
All right, Heather, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And I'm going to send this back to Bert. Bert?
Heather, Robin, thank you so much. Heather, I just have a quick question for you. If somebody wants to get involved in the organization, how do they do that?
So we have a couple folks who have raised their hands to help organize volunteers. We are all volunteers and we all have day jobs. I have a day job, so don't tell my day job that I'm on this call. So certainly email us. You can email us off the site. That will go directly to one of the board members, and then we'll rally very quickly back. And there's lots of pockets of knowledge within our board as to, again, we're talking about grants now, we're talking about volunteers. We do a ton of outreach, farmers markets, beach pop-ups, those kinds of things. Again, a place for people to just come and galvanize and have discussions. And then also helping us to make links out to those folks overseas that are doing really important things or have a legacy, for example, Reunion Island, and try to sponsor some of those folks either to come here for conversation or to get on webinars. So any kind of skill set, we can keep you busy. We also will have interns again this year.
Well, that's great. Listen, thank you very much for being here today. Really enjoyed it. Great conversation. Some good.